The Seattle Sounders' brand new 2025 kit is here. Inspired by two traditional Southern Coast Salish weaving techniques, twilling and twinning. These techniques, passed down through generations, honor the resilience, deep-rooted ties, and creativity that define the cultural fabric of this region. The striking deep blue jersey will be worn by the Sounders for the next 2 seasons to honor the club's deep connection with the Puget Sound and shared responsibility as stewards of the greater Salish Sea watershed. Backing up that commitment, the Seattle Sounders will donate up to $50,000 to benefit community charities around the Puget Sound region. To get your very own Salish Sea kit, visit lobbingscorchers.com/kit. That's lobbingscorchers.com/KIT.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome in to another episode of Under the Lights, our Thursday night live show. Got a great one for you tonight. Gonna talk more about the fallout from Seattle's CCC defeat at Cruz Azul. Planning on talking about how they're going to line up now with these injuries, and I guess at the beginning of the show, reflecting a little bit now that the dust has settled and I've had some time to digest it a little bit more, how I'm feeling about that L and Seattle's prospects moving forward. I want to play with the lineup builder a little bit with you guys because I think with these injuries, how they line it up has become a more interesting question than it once was. We're going to talk some St. Louis City SC. We're going to look forward. That's what we got to do right now. After these this is going to be the last CCC takes. And we're going to look forward, talk some St. Louis City SC, and then hit some other CCC results from around MLS. I was just covering the Inter Miami at Cavalier FC series, which Inter Miami had a tougher time with that team than the 4-0 aggregate might indicate. I watched all of both of those games, and I was a little bit salty actually after the first leg because Cavalier FC they were hanging with Inter Miami. They really were. And then they had a goal waved offside that shouldn't have been waved off. I actually got into it with an Inter Miami fan on Blue Sky over that because if you saw the goal I'm talking about, it really the CONCACAF VAR protocol I think is just so. It just really they don't do clear and obvious. They just do. If we kind of think that could have been reversed, then we're just going to reverse it type thing. So that was frustrating, but that was more of a game than I would have thought for Inter Miami playing a Jamaican side. And then this game, they kind of cruised. But going to talk about more of those CCC results, maybe talk a little about a club that might be on fraud watch. So it's going to be a good show. As always, if you guys have any questions or topics that you want to hit, go ahead and drop them in chat. I'll do my best to get to them. And appreciate you guys tuning in. I feel like these Thursday night streams are the ones for the sickos, but it's good. It's good stuff, and love getting to interact with you guys. If you haven't yet, I'm going to do some shilling real quick. If you haven't yet, go ahead, like the video. That really helps us out. That pushes us into the algorithm. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And shout out to our sponsors, Hacks and Ferments, Full Pull Wines, and Podium Menswear. Patronize all our sponsors. That really helps them out, but also us out. All right. Let's just get into it, I guess. Let's just get into it. The Seattle Sounders are down bad right now. There's no question about it. That was a tough CCC defeat at Cruz Azul, and we kind of talked about it in the post-game live and the podcast, but it wasn't that they lost. It was how they lost. We all had high hopes for this team in CCC this year. I was hopeful that the depth that they had accumulated and the chemistry that they were showing in preseason and some of the stuff that we saw from this team at the beginning of the season would be able to carry over into a game like this, which is admittedly, these are the highest degree of difficulty games that you're going to play. These CONCACAF road matches, especially in Mexico, against a team like this, even with Cruz Azul not having a home field and kind of being, I don't know if they're in full-on turmoil, but there's unrest down there. Remember, we had the one guy commenting, actively rooting for the Sounders to beat them. So they were definitely not flying high, but like even with all that taken into account, that is an incredibly difficult game. But I think Noah and I both had hopes that this team was in a place where they could go into a game like that and perform better than they ended up showing. So I guess the question is, what should the worry level be, and can they bounce back? And I guess I'll just start by telling you guys how I feel about that, which is, after letting the dust settle, and like I said, reflecting on it a little bit, I really don't think that performance was indicative of the quality of this team. And I'm going to try not to fall into recency bias of judging the team as a whole based on the most recent result. I know that's difficult to do right now. And a lot of people are down on the team, understandably so. Lobbing Scorchers is getting dunked on a little bit. We have people talking about how they were right about Rusnak all along. They were right about the Ferreira trade all along. We've gotten some comments to that effect on YouTube, which is fine. Like I expect that. I will say, I think actively rooting against your own team and rooting for the players on your own team to fail because you think it will, because you want it to prove your own point. I think that is some of the lamest shit I've ever seen. Like, if that's how some people want to do it, then that's your prerogative, I guess. But I was seeing some comments from Seattle fans that were downright gleeful that they lost that game because they think it proves their agendas regarding Albert Rusnak and Jesus Ferreira, which I guess the first thing I would say is that, we don't need to wade fully into this discourse, but you realize the only reason that they scored a goal in that game was because of Albert Rusnak. Like, I think that's worth pointing out. Like, they don't score a goal in that game without his set pieces. And really, I feel like that game that was lost in the defensive midfield, in the back line to an extent, but really the double pivot got ran on in that game, and I don't know what to make of that other than that I think it was just it was an individual bad game from not, and I don't want to just blame those two guys. Like, I think it was just a collectively poor performance at a not good time. So go through chat real quick here and see if you guys have any initial thoughts here. I bet after tonight, all of Jamaica was in that stadium tonight and half the country played for Cavalier SC. Yeah, that game was fully sold out. Everywhere Messi goes, that's what happens. But it looked like a lit atmosphere for sure. And it's always funny because you get opposing fans that are like, he scores a goal and they're cheering even though he just bammed on their team. He scored a goal in this game. He rotated out in the first leg, and then he came on in the second half of this game, scored a goal right at the end. Suarez also had a penalty kick. But if you want an idea on like how difficult this tournament can be, I think that series is a pretty good example. They did not like destroy, like they ended up getting a 4-0 aggregate on them, but like that Jamaican side was giving them a pretty hard time. And that's the team. They had Busquets out there. They had Suarez out there. They had Jordi Alba out there. Messi was out there for just the second half of the second leg, but they had a hard time with it. And then guys, like, I mean, I was going to get to it later in when I talk about the other results, but may as well bring it up now. Like, look at what happened to FC Cincinnati. They were playing Tigres and they bombed out pretty much just as hard as Seattle did. They lost 3-1 in the second leg. So it's just another one of those things where, you know, there was so much talk of when Evander was on the block, and like there was so much sentiment of like either people saying that they wanted Seattle to go get Evander, or they're like, why don't they go spend $22 million on a player like Latte Loth or a player like Evander? Cincinnati had Evander in this tournament. How much good did that do him? You know, like, I think that's kind of my ultimate conclusion, is that the further I get away from Seattle's 2022 run where they won CCC, the more it becomes clear that that was an outlier. It was an outlier. It was not indicative of MLS clubs closing the gap, at least in this tournament, to any significant extent. The only way that you're going to close that gap is to, I mean, relax the roster spending rules and get the all-around quality of the rosters evened out, and then these series and this tournament in general will be more even. But like, you know, you can blame Rusnak all you want, but the reality is that pretty much no MLS clubs win series like that historically. And there's a reason that only one MLS club has won it in modern times. It's because the deck is inherently stacked against you. You have to have the performances of a lifetime. You have to have players kind of overperforming, and you have to have a lot of luck and good fortune go your way. I mean, that's not to take away anything from Seattle's 2022 run. Honestly, they balled out pretty much that whole tournament, and I think they finished with like a +11 goal differential. But like I said, like, if you've got one example of something happening and then the rest of it is just always the other outcome, that's an outlier. I know we all wanted to think that that was a sign of the league closing the gap, but when I just look at how it's played out in the few years since Seattle did that, it's just it's obviously not impossible because Seattle did it, but you're threading a fine line. It's tough. Bad passing was a killer. Yeah. I mean, I think we said it on the post-game show, but I think the biggest reason they lost that game was just how poor they were in possession and the giveaways. And I guess that brings me, I had a couple things written down that it's kind of like a you know, I know hindsight is 2020, but you know, things that I wish were different or maybe could have changed that outcome. And that's I think the number one thing is just literally, I mean, it sounds simple and stupid, but literally just keep the ball in the second leg, keep possession, and don't give it away every time you have it, and then take it from there. But like the fact that they couldn't keep the ball, it was like it felt like they were chalked before they could even get into the game, just because I don't think there was any period of the first half where they sustained any possession at all. And then, you know, they actually got it to halftime at 1-0. And so I'm thinking, all right, like, go into the locker room, everyone chill out, recalibrate, go back out there. And what I wanted to see, I was hoping that after kickoff, they would just knock the ball around a little bit and getting the rhythm of the game more and maintaining some possession. And I don't think there was a single, like, as soon as the second half kicked off, it kind of felt like the same thing was happening again. So it was just one of those games. Felt like Obed was trying to collect yellow cards in that game. He was lucky not to get sent off, arguably. It felt like he was tempting fate. And actually, thanks for bringing that up, because that brings me to one of the other hindsight kind of wishes that I had, which is, I think I said this already. I really wish JP had played more in this series. I don't know how much of a difference, if any, that would have made. But you guys remember how good JP was when they won CCC? He was incredible. That was like some of the best soccer I've ever seen a guy play. He was on one the whole time. Stefan Fry got like most outstanding player of that tournament, rightfully. I think JP could have been right in the mix. And I just think his experience and calming presence and leadership, that could have helped. And Danny Leva got the nod. Danny Leva subbed on over JP in the second half, which I thought it was, I think he came on for, I can't remember who he came on for, but I don't know. I thought he played well. I think he was one of the only guys on the team that did play well, but not just in that specific instance. I wish JP had played more in general. And then really, I think looking back on it, the 0-0 in the first leg, it didn't chalk them. They gave themselves a chance, and that is all you can ask for. But it's hard not to feel like if one of those ones off the post from Nuhu or Jordan goes in, maybe we're talking about a different outcome. Or if the one, this is my petulant complaint. It is bullshit that Areola goal got called off. That, or the De La Vega goal where Areola was called offside. That shouldn't have been called off. I'm not a ref guy. I'm not a complain about the ref guy, really. I complain about the refs sometimes. I'm not going to say I never do it. That was stupid. That's just in the spirit of the game, man. Why are we taking that goal away? But, I don't know. I don't know if that would have changed the outcome or, what difference it would have made. But I think my broader point here is that really, to give yourself a really realistic chance of advancing, or at least not making the degree of difficulty as high as it ended up being, you needed to jump out in front in that first leg. You needed to. I think I was rationalizing at the time. I was like, it's not even that bad. Like if they're up like 1-0, that wouldn't be that different than what it is now, because they still need to score. But I think there's something psychological to it. And then also just every goal in this tournament is so precious. So what is Club America annual salary expenditure compared to MLS clubs? So like, I don't know exactly, but every single team, Noah and I actually looked this up at one point. I think it's actually not, the spending is actually, there's not as big of a gap as you would think from the top tier MLS clubs to like the mid tier to bottom tier Liga MX clubs. But like where it becomes just a gap that is sort of unmanageable is with the top teams, where the spending is just way higher. So either the CCC dates need to change or our MLS calendar does, so we are closer to mid-season form. That's my opinion anyway. Depth salary cap too. Yeah, and I mean, that is another good point. Like MLS clubs are at an inherent disadvantage in terms of fitness in this competition. These Liga MX clubs were 8, 9, 10 games into their league season or whatever. So you're basically like that is one of the reasons that MLS clubs have struggled so much historically in this competition. There's no doubt about it. Like if you ask Liga MX fans and media about that, they'll probably tell you that it's excuse making. But I think it's just the reality that a team that has played that much of their league season and has that much of a fitness edge on you, and then you throw the road trips, the travel demands on top of that, you're playing these games with one figurative hand tied behind your back. You are. That's why, now that I think about it, you know how the Liga MX clubs and their fans complain about how they're at a disadvantage in Leagues Cup because the whole thing is hosted here? I don't know how high my sympathy meter is. Because first of all, they get this fitness advantage in CCC every year. So it's a little tit for tat in that way. So yeah, I don't know. Danny came in for Jesus Ferreira. That's what. Yeah, that's. I knew it was it was like an unexpected name, which was crazy considering how Christian and Obed were playing. Yeah. Like here's one thing that I'm not Monday morning quarterbacking Schmetz, but if I were a coach, which I'm not, I would handle those situations differently. Like he's been in situations a few times now where it's been a big game, like a final, like Noah and I were comparing it to the 2017 Cup. He's been in situations, at least those 2 times, and I think a couple more times, where the team is just getting absolutely run on in the first half. If you remember the 2017 Cup, that was about as one-sided a first half as you're ever going to see. It actually looked very similar to this game. And in this game, Seattle was getting absolutely run on in the first half. If I were the coach in that situation, this is what I would do. When I went in the locker room, I would say, guys, like I would lay down what needs to change tactically or strategically in order to turn the game script around. And I would say the starters have 5 to 10 minutes at absolute most to show that that they can change this game state, or I'm going to have to start making subs. And I would just be real. I would tell the players, like, this isn't about like having to go at anybody or undermining anybody or calling out who I'm subbing out as not good enough or anything like that. It's just like, we're in a big game right now. We're getting absolutely run on. I'm going to make these subs by 55. I feel like so I guess in this situation, what I'm saying is like, with Christian and Obed, who are great players for this team, but with them having what was clearly an off night, like that's where I would have been like, all right, Danny Leyva, you're in right now. JP, you're in right now. We got to change this. I think sometimes he might wait too long before getting to that point. I don't know. Am I cooking with that? That's just something that was running through my mind, because like just the way that game was going, I don't mind giving them a little bit of time to see if they can turn it around, if those are the guys that you want and trust out there. But like, it just felt like it really felt like until Cruz Azul got their second goal, Seattle never really got into the game. Sometimes it looks like Brian has a schedule when the subs come in, who subs for who, and the game plays out and the schedule does not get modified. Yeah, like I see what you're saying. And in this situation, would anyone have blamed him if he made like a triple sub at 55? I wouldn't have. Like, it felt like we all kind of knew how the game was going. So was watching Soccer Wise Live, and they were talking about League MX salary. Said Club America pays around 100 million a year on salary. Yeah, I honestly haven't looked that up to know, but it's a lot is the point, So, all right, I was gonna bust the lineup builder out for you guys. We played with this a few weeks ago, and I haven't busted out in a few weeks. I think these under the lights streams are the best time to do this because I guess this becomes pertinent now with the injury situation, which we can just talk about a little bit first. I didn't hear it, or I didn't hear a Cian Ariola update today. Imagine that's coming in the next day or two. I'm not a doctor, but I will tell you, I would be surprised if that's not a long-term injury, just based on what we saw on the broadcast. And that sucks incredibly bad. I feel really bad for Paul. Wish him the best in his recovery, obviously. He was a big acquisition this offseason, and he was looking really good. He was looking like he was fitting in really well on this team, both in terms of like his skill set, but also just him as a sounder. I've watched him play a lot in his career, both in MLS and with the national team, and I never really thought about him coming here, but he seems like such a sounder, such a Schmetz and a sounder type player. Really hard worker, freakishly fit, never stops running, and he provides, I think, more final product than people talk about or give credit for. His stat sheet production throughout his career hasn't been incredible, but it's been very good, and he looked like he was fitting in really well on this team. So that sucked to see. De La Vega and Jordan Morris, I think we're all hoping are short term. Brian was sick, so no update. Okay, got it. Thank you. I didn't know that. Shifted the formation to a 4-3-3 to add to the midfield, or at least a 4-4. Yeah, something like that. What I was going to say, De La Vega and Jordan Morris, I'm hoping that those are more like shorter term. De La Vega is a quad that he tweaked in the first leg. Typically, I feel like typically a quad, you're looking at probably, I would say, more than 2 weeks. I think quads and hamstrings are both trickier. I don't know. I'm kind of just speculating off the cuff right now, but I feel like quads and hammies, you're usually talking about 4 to 6 more than 2 to 4. So hopefully it's closer to the 2 week range. But I think with De La Vega, the tough thing is that he, last year, he got in this cycle where he was getting muscle injuries and then either coming back too soon or he just couldn't ramp up and then withstand the demands of playing professional soccer without re-aggravating it. So I think if they have to hold him out longer to avoid that outcome, then I say hold him out longer, but it's hard not to get that anxiety about a repeat of last year. I'm not going to put that on him yet. This is the first one of this season, so I'm not going to put that on him yet, but it's definitely unfortunate. And then Jordan pulled up with the hamstring. I guess that depends if it's like a full-on pull or if that's just a minor tweak. So we have to wait and find out on that too. But my hope is that they're only out for 2 to 3 weeks. We'll see what happens with that. All right, I'm going to bust out this lineup builder. We're going to see how the squad should line it up this weekend for the game this weekend. But I think also this is kind of just an exercise to see how they should handle it moving forward. What we did with this last time is I just started filling it out how I would do it. And then if you guys have ideas for either formation changes or guys that you want to plug me in, or you want me to plug in at certain places, we can just toy around with it, see how it line it up. And I think I wanted to do this because right now your Schmetz is making these lineups without three guys who are typically in your starting 11 in De La Vega, Jordan Morris, and Paul Arriola was maybe not necessarily a week in, week out starter, but he was a guy who was going to start a lot of games. So I think, I think the back line, and the double pivot are just straightforward. I'm just going to plug those in how they normally have it. It's really the front four that is the question. I can never remember which. So we got normal back line: Fry, Nuhu, Reagan, Yanmar, Harold on, Christian rolled on, Obed. And then, okay. So I think that much is straightforward. But the question is, who should start on the wings and who should start up top? I'll tell you guys what I want to see. And I think a lot of people have been kind of pining for this. I think you got to put Ferreira up top, right? I think Ferreira and Moose are going to be rotating in the short term here while Jordan's out. That's ultimately what's going to happen. But I guess what I'm saying, like, that I don't want to happen is them to continue to play Ferreira out wide or underneath Moose. It's really, this is not like an anti-Moose thing. You guys know that I'm not on the anti-Moose thing as much as everyone else. It's more just like, I think you should use this opportunity to see how it functions with Ferreira playing in that role. I don't really know about how they've been using him so far. It feels like, I think he's looked good, honestly. I know everyone's on him for missing that shot in this last game, but I still really like what I've seen from him as a facilitator and how he's combining with everybody. I think in the LAFC game, his assist was really good, and that's sort of maybe the type of stuff he can do in a deeper role as opposed to playing higher up. But that's just not really historically where he's played his best. Like, when I think of him for FC Dallas, I think of him as a pure 9 or a false 9, and then maybe somewhat 10 qualities at times. But it feels like Seattle has been using him kind of as like a dual 10 almost, and then I don't know. There's kind of some disagreement on this, but I feel like he's floated wide quite a bit too. And in general, he's just playing deeper than I envisioned when he joined this team. So like I said, I think this is how they should handle it to start. Kevin says, give this one to JP and Leyva. So I'm going to do that. I think that's a good shout because, we'll see what they do for this St. Louis game. I think they might mix and match a little bit, but yeah, sure. The JP Leyva double pivot I've really liked what I've seen from that so far. I honestly feel like, I think before this last game, the Christian Obed double pivot was playing great, but what I saw from the JP Leyva double pivot I didn't think it was that much of a drop off, really. I don't know if that would hold true over the course of a full season, but I think, doesn't it? Okay, do you guys agree that in what we've seen from JP this year, I think he's showed, I don't think he's the best 11 JP anymore. I'm seeing more juice from him so far this year than last year. Nico and I were talking about this before the season, but everyone looks at the fact that he's 33 and they're like, oh, okay, he's so old now. Like, how much could he possibly have left? He's also another year out from the ACL injury, which that really, it can take a really, really long time. It can take a really, really long time. And I think he's looking good. It's weird that he hasn't really featured at striker, he being Ferreira, despite being our only true starting caliber backup to JMO. Time to test it out. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, if they feel like if the coaches feel like the only way to get Morris and Ferreira on the field at the same time is how they've been using Ferreira, I guess that's how they feel. But now that Jordan's going to be out for a bit, this is how you have to run it. Okay. And then I actually think this is pretty simple. I think it's just Rothrock Georgie. Oops. Which, for however poorly that last game went, Rothrock has been on one these last couple games, and I didn't think that changed, honestly, in this game. I know he gave up the penalty. People are mad at him right now because he gave up the penalty. My thing is just like, yeah, it was a bad play. The challenge that he made on that play was a bad play, but the whole team was honestly asking to be bammed on for such lengthy portions of that game. Like, I look at it like they kind of that they were asking to concede one way or the other. And when you've lost that much control of the game state, like, how aggrieved can you really be at a guy who concedes a penalty when the whole team's trying to concede anyway? You know what I mean? Like, so yes, it was a bad play, but then he also the play where Ferreira skied his shot was a phenomenal play by Rothrock. Like, he really the separation that he's been creating on these jukes and on these plays, it's like he was all alone on that play, and he was taking Hollingshead lunch money like all day in the LAFC game. So I was honestly not hoping, but if Rothrock had started the Cruz Azul game, I would not have argued with that at all. At all. Rothrock had some of our best attacking moves against Cruz Azul. He had two guys that I don't blame, and a lot of people are going to obviously disagree with this, but Rusnak and Rothrock, I think everyone was bad in possession, so I don't think you can really single any one guy out with that. But like the Seattle's best chances at scoring in this game, besides the opening 5 minutes, were one they did score on was the Rusnak free kick, and then his free kicks are so good. I love watching that guy take free kicks. It's nice having the team be elite on set pieces. That is one upshot of Rusnak as the DP for this team, is he makes you elite on set pieces, which is I think you kind of saw actually in this game what an X factor that can be. Seattle had no business being in this game at all, and they ended up getting a goal that put them back in the series because of what he brings to the table on set pieces. I thought his corner kicks were great. I thought his free kicks were great. So I thought he and Rothrock, Rusnak, Moose, and Danny Leyva. Those would be my call outs. Maybe Nuhu, funnily enough. Nuhu didn't do anything notably stupid, did he? Ryan Shane, new YouTube member. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it. If you want to support the show, what Ryan just did is a great way to do it. And Ryan, you were the one who asked about the definition of tilted. I will get to that. That's going to be part of the show tonight. Please post on socials that you were streaming. That is a great point. I'm really bad about that, and I always forget. So I'm actually going to do that right now. I'm going to try and keep talking so you guys, so it's not just silence, but you're right, Joe. Thanks for reminding me, and I'm going to try and remind myself from now on. let's see what Spencer's thinking with this. I'm thinking 3-5-2, Nuhu, Yegan, Yamar, Rothrock, Obed, Christian, Alex. Here, I'll just plug that in. I'll plug that in. So you're saying 3-5-2, Nuhu, Reagan, Ymar, Rothrock, left wing back, Obed, Christian, or put Rusnak here. So like this. Moose. Okay, so Moose and Ferreira together as dual strikers. Spencer, is this what you're thinking? This is a little I think you might be cooking here. Why doesn't this team have a set piece coach yet? I feel like our dead ball potential is even more than we already get out of it. I think Preki is functionally the set piece coach. He's like the guy. He's like the attackers coach. I mean, I don't know. I think they got like 19 goals or something ridiculous off set pieces last year. And this year they've been looking. They honestly, they would have 2 more goals off set pieces than they already had if they didn't keep jumping offside, and they almost cost themselves the one that they got in the LAFC game. So, I don't know. Maybe they could be getting more out of it, but like I think between Rusnak's delivery and then some of the ways, like we were talking about it on the post game show about the LAFC game, but I loved the design on the one on the Rothrock goal. I thought that was really well schemed up. And I love a good schemed up set piece that works when you can tell that they've been drilling that on the training ground. But I just thought that was so good because you have like options there, you know. Rusnak can put it in the mixer or hit Rothrock, and then sort of the way that they legally it turned out. Well, some people would say it was illegal, but you're kind of screening the goalkeeper right there, and Rothrock took advantage of it. So Brian said that Annie. Oh, okay, yeah, I think you could be right. Oh yeah, sorry about the numbers, but yeah, set pieces have been on point all season when they are in offsides. All right, 1 second here, guys. I'm gonna send this blue sky skeet out, and oh, whoops. All right. Thanks for the shout there, Joe. Sent that out right now. If you guys have any other lineup builder requests, go ahead and drop them in chat. I basically wanted to just throw out the first one there, but I like what Spencer has working here. I think the thing I like the most about this is the Moose Ferreira dual strikers. Shout out to Moose, by the way. Shout out to Moose. He's taken a lot of heat. He's taken a lot of heat that I think is over the top. I've been saying the last, honestly, week or so that I think the Moose stuff has gotten over the top, and he got a goal. It's this whole like backup 9 being cursed thing is honestly so weird because the Moose thing reminds me so much of Evander, where it's like I swear he's not bad. Like he's not bad. No one would tell you different, but like he's getting in, like to miss as many sitters as these backup 9s miss, you have to be getting into good spots, don't you? Like that's why it's an issue, because he's like in the spots that a number 9 is supposed to be in, and then it's like the soccer gods just won't let him get one. Like It reminds me so much of the Evander thing. Andy Rose was good on set pieces as a player. He took 2 in 1 game and got 2 assists. Brad Evans. Yeah, no, that's not a bad guy to maybe there's a connection there. I'm gonna have to ask Schmetz about that next time I get a chance. Like maybe there's a connection there for I wonder who the one that they made against LAFC, for instance. Like I wonder who draws that up. If that's like collaborative, if that's Freddie, if that's Andy Rose. But I think one thing that I've really enjoyed watching with this team in the last couple of years is those set piece routines. If that's something that you don't pay attention to or haven't paid attention to, that's like a under the radar perk of following the Sounders or being a Sounders fan right now, is that they're the best set piece team in the league. That's one thing that no one takes into account in the Rusnak discourse, is he's one of the 2 to 3 best free kick takers in MLS right now. You could make a list of 5 and he would have to be in it. I think obviously Messi's the best, but he doesn't even count. There are some really good ones, like don't get me wrong, like Lucho Costa, Evander obviously is really good. Besides Messi, who's one of the best set piece, who's probably the best free kick taker ever, right? Like there are not many guys that I would take over Rusnak with that. Moose is a vibes-based striker. Exactly. And maybe his vibes are salvaged now. You know? That's what you got to hope. Okay, let's move on to next topic. I had another topic I wanted to hit here, which is that after this Cruz Azul game, people were obviously heated at Ferreira for that miss. And I saw some questions floated around just about his buy-in. Is this guy fully bought in? Like, is he trying his hardest? Is he fully fit? Schmetzer said he subbed him off early for looking ahead to the weekend. But I think there's also been talk about the fact that he hasn't been playing a full complement of minutes. Like, is he fully fit? I tend to think it's more of a fitness issue than anything related to buy-in or Schmetz not rating him or anything like that. I think the reality is that he's a very adaptable player, and I think he's fit in tactically as well as I could have hoped for. But there's things that you got to iron out with that. And then also he's kind of playing out of position a little bit. It's almost like he's not, I don't know if he's learning a new position, but he's not playing where he normally plays. So I think that factors in. The miss at Cruz Azul is just a bad shot. Just a bad shot. This is my prediction. You can clip this up, and if this signing turns out to be a total bust, you can go ahead and give me a hard time about it later. But I think like those are going to start going in, or at least getting on target. That's one of those things where this early in the season, you're just not going to be as sharp or in form as you are later in the season. I actually had the opposite thought regarding his buy-in in the LAFC game when KKR scored that goal. Obviously, everyone on the team was going crazy because it was his first MLS goal and his second MLS game. If you go watch that highlight back. Ferreira was the first one celebrating with KKR. He looked as hype as anyone. So I am not yet worried about his buy-in with this team. If he's not bought in, he's self-sabotaging. He has to be bought in. If he wants any hope at all of replenishing his stock for an overseas move, which I think was part of the reasoning for him coming here, he needs to be bought in and he needs to play well. And honestly, this Cruz Azul game, I will say was a missed opportunity for him in that respect. Say he converts that pass from Rothrock and Seattle ends up advancing. Think about what the story would be now. It would be like Ferreira basically carried them to the next round and he scored this great goal on this. So like, I would be pretty surprised if he would. If you're saying he's not bought in, you're saying that he's sort of self-sabotaging. I don't know why. Like then you have to explain why he would do that, you know? You think they're being cautious with him knowing that he came off injury last year? I think that plays into it. Yes, I do. I think you mean confidence. I think it's a confidence issue. I think he isn't pulling the trigger as much as he should and not shaking off the doubts. Yeah, I think when you there's also an element of like when you join a new team, you don't want to step on toes. And I think I said this at one point, but it does feel like he's being a little too deferential. Like he could be more selfish. I think he wants to fit. I think he wants to fit in really bad, and he's like, "Here, you take it. You score the goal. Come on, I'll set you up." That's a good thing in one respect. One thing that I really have liked about his game over the course of his career with FC Dallas is how unselfish he is. That was one of the reasons that I was most excited about the trade, because it's like I feel like this is a player that is going to be very proactive and willing to combine. It's not like about just him getting his numbers. Like he's like a point guard out there. He likes setting people up. That's sort of that's what I like about his skill set, is he's very well rounded. So I know everyone is down on him right now because he missed the shot. I get it. It was a really bad miss. I'm going to try not to fall prey to recency bias. I know that this is a guy that I've watched for a lot of years. Honestly, I watched a lot of him when he was on FC Dallas. He's got 50 plus MLS goals for a reason. I think he's going to figure it out and atone for that miss. It's just unfortunate because that was the biggest moment, honestly, of the season so far. And he hit it into the 27th row. He did. Like, I'm not definitely not saying that it didn't go into the 27th row. Like, he really skied that. But I think those will start going in. Okay, really quick. Ryan had a question earlier that I told him I would get to. So I'm going to pull that up real quick. This is a really important question. Oops. Sorry. Our newest YouTube member, Ryan Shane, asks, would you be willing to walk us through where you'd rank these words on a sliding scale? Tilted, pissed off, crashing out, livid, furious. I can't quite get a picture of where tilted lies on the scale. On the scale. So first of all, I like this question because instead of making fun of how we talk, Ryan just asked a very valid question. It's one of those things, like I say so much that I don't even think about it. But to me, the definition of the word tilted is the first step before you get to crashing out. That's the definition. You're not livid, you're not furious, and you're not even pissed off yet. You're just, I don't know about that. Like, starting to get a little. I think the origin of it is like, because when you get that emotion, it's kind of what you do. You tilt your head. That's what I mean when I say tilted. Like, not like crashing out is, we all know what crashing out is. That's crash out Chris. Tilted is step one. I'm starting to give stars. So anyway, great question, Ryan. If you ever have any questions about the Lobbing Scorchers lingo. All you have to do is ask, and I'll explain it. All right, pulling up on an hour here. I didn't have all that much left for tonight. Honestly, I'll probably go for an hour 10 or so. But there is a few other topics that I wanted to get to. I guess I'll do it a little out of order here. LAFC is on fraud watch. They're on fraud watch. And they're also, I think, in a worse situation than the Sounders are with CCC right now. I know they advanced, but let me explain. There's something going on with them. We talked about it with the Blazing Hot presser, how Steve C, very clearly called out Denny Bwanga after the Seattle game. He said that his subs weren't up for it in terms of effort and mentality. Those are the words that he used, not me. Effort and mentality. And Bwanga was one of his subs. So that's by design to me pretty clearly for him to say that. Bwanga hasn't looked that good so far. He looked horrible in the Seattle game, and God, that was awesome. How many times has that evil demon spawned from the gates of hell tortured us all? To see them just bottle him up. And honestly, to be fair, actually, I feel like compared to a lot of MLS clubs, Seattle has done relatively well against Bwanga, but he got the one in the playoff game a couple years ago. And he's gotten the better of Seattle. Like, he pissed on Starfire. So but just to see him getting that frustrated with being bottled up and not be able to do anything about it, I'm just not used to seeing him like that. I was laughing at him. But Steve C is clearly not happy with him. He's not started the season particularly well. So that's one thing. And then they advanced in this CCC series, and the first leg against Columbus at home, they won 3-0. That's really the one game that they've played well all year. And I kind of dismissed that earlier in the year because they were juggling with CCC and they were still getting wins. So I was like, it doesn't really mean that much. But they were ahead 3-0 on aggregate against the Crew, and they barely advanced. Like, they were one goal away. They were one goal away, guys, from choking that series. And then Bwanga scored one at the very end that made it look comfortable on aggregate. But I briefly called into Happy Foot, Sad Foot after the game, and they were not happy. They were not happy. So, and I guess like how this relates to Seattle is like, I think for Seattle, if you're going to crash out, it's better to do it at this point in the tournament than to make it further in and then crash out later. You see what I'm saying? Both in terms of the emotional toll, but the physical and psychological toll get greater on this tournament the deeper that you make it in. I don't think LAFC has the vibe of a team that's going to make a run at winning the whole thing right now. I almost feel like they would have been better served to just crash out and regroup and then not have to juggle this stuff anymore. But right now they're in a situation where they have to keep juggling it. And it doesn't seem like they're handling that very well. And guess who they have to play? Inter Miami. They're not going to win that. I really don't think so. Maybe they will. Inter Miami crashed out of it last year, but that was against the Liga MX team. LAFC, this iteration of LAFC going up against Messi and the Barca boys. They're wasting their time. They should have just let the Crew through. Frankly, neither one of LAFC or the Crew, I don't think, are touching Inter Miami. I really don't think so. They're going to unleash Messi for this series, and LAFC is going to have to empty the tank in a situation where they have no chance at winning. So I would honestly rather be in Seattle's situation where Seattle can just throw in the bin, get back to the league season, never think about that again, instead of playing Messi and the Barca boys like they are. But just in general, I'm not calling them totally frauds yet, but they are on fraud watch. And I think the Galaxy, honestly, are. I mean, it's not even fraud watch. They're just on. They're probably bad because they shed so much salary watch. Is that a? Can I make that an official term? They're probably bad because they had to shed so much salary and have so many injuries. Watch. That's the LA Galaxy. So both LA clubs. Arguably down worse than Seattle, even though the Galaxy moved through in CCC, but they're playing like a pretty random Costa Rican team. So I don't think that that means the Galaxy are suddenly good. I had no clue until you played the clip on the pod that Steve C was so soft-spoken. Yeah, he's soft-spoken, and he's kind of like a robot. We played really well today, and it was great to see Olivier Giroud run around and get his cardio in. But, you know, at some point, it would be nice to see him score an MLS goal. That's my Steve C impression. He's like a soccer robot cyborg. He's an interesting one. He's my number one example of why I find it so hard to assess like who's a good coach or not. Because Steve C, if you remember, before he became the coach of LAFC, he was the coach of the Las Vegas Lights, which was their USL championship affiliate at the time. And like they were horrible. They had the worst record in USL that year. But like, I mean, no coach could have done anything with the players that he had. And then he becomes the LAFC coach, and they have insanely good players. They had the best roster in the league, so they were like the best team in the league. So I'm like, how do we even know? How do we even know if he's a good coach or not? Like, obviously, having the worst record in the USL as the Las Vegas Lights coach doesn't mean anything because his roster was horrible. But how much does it mean that LAFC is insanely good? You know, it's difficult to measure. That's why I think things like man management and culture are actually way more important in a coach necessarily than X's and O's. There are some coaches, very few and far between, like Wilfred Nancy, who are just savants at the X's and O's, and they can give you an advantage. But I think, generally speaking, to me, it seems like man management, you know, managing the locker room, managing egos, that's like what makes a good, impactful coach to me, more than, like, seriously, Inter Miami is plugging in Messi's boy right now, and they're still the best team in the league. Does that mean that guy's a good coach? I don't know. Disc golfer, thanks for hopping in. It's going. It's been a pretty good show tonight. We talked some CCC. We talked some line. We did some lineup building stuff. So yeah, no, it's been a good one. Thanks for popping by. I'm glad you saw the. Thank you, Joe, again for shouting out the Blue Sky post. I will remember to do that for the rest of my life. I promise. Asul with the question: do you think the Cruz Azul game and injuries might spur the front office to get a U22 before this current transfer window closes, or do you think they'll still stay put? I think they're still going to stay put because their rationale for waiting, which I actually think makes sense, is that they really want to get a locked down idea on how the team plays and what the needs are before they make that signing. Now, Paul Arriola, that looks like a long-term injury, so you could say that creates like a need right away. But I think it's more like a team-wide evaluation that they want to do. And I'm like, I would rather, it might not be a popular take, but I would rather them do that and have them feel confident that they know what to target, what the needs are, and then go do it. I think that would serve the team better than like panic signing somebody because you've had injuries. This is what the depth is for. So I think they're going to stay put, and I would argue that they should. Maybe I'm more patient than some people think I should be, but I would much rather them like take their time, make the right signing for what they've assessed that the need is, than sign somebody right now. Steve C has two of the best assistant coaches in the league. Ante Razov is the best attacking coach in the league. I think that's very true. Shout out Ante Razov. He used to be a coach here. He used to be on the Sounders staff. I interviewed him once. Love to see Brian with one of those little magnetic boards moving X's and O's around. I think he's more adept at the X's and O's than people give him credit for. He gets talked about like he's this like total tactical novice. People like backhanded compliment him all the time. They're like, he doesn't know the game at all. He has no idea what he's doing, but he's from Seattle and he's a great guy who all the players like. So he's in the perfect spot. That undersells how good a coach he is. And in fact, I've been even more radicalized that Schmetz is an elite coach in the last couple years, watching how players have developed under him. Like the example I keep coming to is Paul Rothrock. That was an amazing coaching job to get Paul Rothrock into the player that he is now. I really think you have to credit Schmetz for that. Not necessarily in teaching Paul Rothrock how to play the game or whatever, but having the faith in him. Having the faith in him and having the conviction in what he saw in training. And like someone, I was talking about this the other day, and someone pointed out that it was partially by necessity because of all the injuries. That is true, but he would not have put him out there if he didn't think that he was setting him up to be successful. So guys like Paul Rothrock, I'm not sure if Paul Rothrock is on another team under another coach, if we're talking about him as this really good MLS player. Any Ari thoughts on the stadium discourse that's kind of been going around? That's a good point, Spencer. I'll talk about that. I'll talk about that right now. Let me pull up Jeremiah's article real quick. This is what you're referring to. We got stadium discourse. Thank you for the reminder. I was going to put that in my little outline, and I totally forgot. But yeah, let's talk about this. And as we do this discourse, feel free to drop your thoughts on it in chat. Jeremiah's headline here is, with eyes on new stadium, Sounders can't lose sight of current problems. The subhead, dropping attendance isn't a problem that can be put off much longer. Go check out this whole article on Sounder at Heart, and go ahead and subscribe to Sounder at Heart while you're at it if you have not yet. Basically what he's talking about is that, I guess at a press conference earlier this year, Adrian Hanauer, he gave what sounds like it's his strongest indication yet that his ultimate vision, or what he ultimately thinks is best for both the Sounders and the Reign, is to have their own soccer specific stadium. Presumably that would be at Long Acres. I don't think it's been talked about like in that ironclad of detail, but it would be moving from Lumen, obviously, into their own stadium. The rationale being like Jeremiah has the subhead visitors in their own home, and that I think is the start of the core of the issue, which is that being like a tenant in someone else's place is not, there are drawbacks that come along with that. For instance, he has it in this article. I don't know if this was like public, but if the Sounders had advanced in CCC, they wouldn't have been able to host because there's a monster truck rally. They wouldn't have been able to host the game when they were supposed to, when they needed to, because there's a monster truck rally like scheduled for that date. First of all, so it's just dumb shit like that. Like there's conflicts like that. There was the football lines era. It's just like, unless you have your own place, you are like susceptible to stuff like that. But one thing I want to say is, like, that pisses me off that the monster trucks take precedent. The Sounders pay a shit ton of money to lease this place, to play their games there, right? If they're playing in CCC and you have a monster truck rally scheduled, all due respect to the monster trucks, I've never been to one of those. That they actually look pretty fun. They do. I've never been to one, but I would go to one. I've liked the commercials. Kid seats, just $5. Sunday. Okay. Not hating on the monster truck rally. But if you have an MLS team that's paying the amount of money that they're paying to lease the place, then you got to respectfully tell the monster trucks to fuck off. Like, I don't know what we're talking about with them getting booted from a CCC quarterfinals game for a monster truck rally. You reschedule that. Like, I just think that is so stupid, man. But that's not the only thing. There's a lot of visitors in their own home type of stuff that goes on with this, and it's like it's just better to have like full control of your home venue and not be subject to the whims of other events like that. All right, good. We got monster truck discourse in chat. I like that. I mean, I'll just give my opinion on it, which is pretty simple. Like, I definitely understand the logic for why they would want to have their own building. But Jeremiah talks about it in the article. Like, there's a lot of drawbacks that would come with, certainly with being out at Long Acres. For me, like, I just kind of can't picture the game day experience in the atmosphere and all that, like, not at the Lumen location. The location's just so good. It's so good. Like, it's so accessible. It's right in the middle of everything. It's right in the middle of like actual Seattle. So it gives the games like the games have like more of a Seattle identity, if that makes sense, because it's like right there. I don't know. When I think about it, I just don't like the idea of sacrificing that location. And maybe that's just like sentimentality, overly sentimental, and it would be better for them to have their own place. But the Lumen location is second to none. I almost think, if you ask me, like, if you could have like have their own stadium somewhere outside of Seattle, but it's like fully theirs and it's really nice, or you keep Lumen, but you have to deal with like monster truck rallies and stuff. Personally, I might lean keep Lumen. I don't know. Chat, what do you guys think? Yeah, like if they build it in downtown somewhere, but like where would you do that? I can't think of a place where they would be able to build it in anywhere in the Lumen vicinity. And honestly, the Lumen location is uniquely perfect. It's uniquely perfect. There's nowhere that you could move that would be a lateral, wouldn't be a lateral move or a downgrade. You can't upgrade from it. I really don't think you can. You're basically, fundamentally, before you even talk about anything else, you're downgrading the location and subsequently the match day experience. The match day experience around Lumen is phenomenal. Now, here's another thing that I will say, though, which is that part of what's at issue here is the decline in attendance. Seattle's attendance it's still good, but it's dropped a lot. They used to average 40 to 42 a game. Now it's down towards 30. The LAFC game was not super well attended. So the organization is going to have to reckon with that. And they're doing like the first time fan initiative, like first time ticket on us or whatever. I think that's a good idea. But one thing I will say, man, and this isn't just about the Sounders, honestly. This is about a lot of clubs in this league and, frankly, a lot of professional sports teams. If you mark up your ticket prices and then people like don't go, like, what do you think? There must be some business stuff that's over my head that I don't understand, where marking up the prices like that just helps their bottom line, which is all they care about. It must help your bottom line, even if there's less people buying tickets or less people at the games. It's self-defeating, man. Like, they shouldn't be doing that. They really, like I said, it's not just the Sounders. It's like most sports organizations in the world are pricing people out, making it so only the upper class can afford to go to the games. First of all, rich people aren't that cool. They're not going to provide a great game day atmosphere as like the real people. But like, people were pointing out the price of the tickets for the LAFC game. It's ridiculous. What are we doing? What are we talking about? You're going to mark up your LAFC game, these crazy prices that like a lot of people can't afford. Why didn't people show up? I can't believe it. I guess my my overall point is just like, make the games affordable and you would generate so much goodwill. You know who gets this, man? You know who gets this? Arthur Blank, man. Arthur Blank, one of the richest dudes in the entire world. The Home Depot guy. The Home Depot guy. He makes those games are affordable. Wade, I know you're on this talking point. Like, I see all your comments. The quality of the team has not been noticeably bad this year. The LAFC game we're talking about, they scored 5 goals. It was at the beginning of last year. I think that's where me and you disagree, man. Like, the talking points that you dish are all based on when they started the season really poorly for the first half of last year. That was bad. I never would disagree with you on that. That has not been true for a while now. They played at a 2 points per game pace for the entire second half of last year, won 16 games, racked 57 points, got a top 4 seed, and made it to the Western Conference final. So no, the quality of this team is not noticeably bad. They're actually one of the better teams in the league. Don't think the first match on us is being talked about enough. It's such a good idea. I've told all my friends and coworkers about it, and to a person, they've said they want to try a game now. Yeah, they said that they got tons of interest in that. I think that's a good idea. It's a good start. But like, I don't know. I just saw people talking about the prices for the LAFC ticket. It just rubs me the wrong way, man. Just rubs me the wrong way. Like I said, Atlanta United got so much good PR for literally just having affordable concessions. You guys know this, that if you go to an Atlanta United game, you can get a hot dog for like a reasonable price. Like, it's like $4 or something. Like, that's not like, and everyone's like, wow, what an incredible organization they are for having food that normal people can afford to buy. That should be like that should be the standard. That should be the standard. It's a good team, but we don't have a superstar to bring the casuals to the games. Also, it's expensive. Dollars don't go as far, and soccer is lower on people's entertainment totem pole. Yeah, I mean, maybe this is just me. I don't think the superstar thing is as important as some people seem to. I think this fan base is educated enough and cares enough about this team that name value isn't what drives people to the games. You have to be a winning product and you have to be an entertaining product. And that's where I think what Wade was saying actually has validity, in that the big problem that they had last season for the first couple months of the season was an anemic offense, and just like it was boring. It was boring. And I would even grant that even when they started winning and racking points again, it wasn't necessarily the most exciting soccer all the time. It was like a lot of grinded out type games. I had fun with it because they were winning, and I do think there was certainly individual games and stretches of times where they played a lot better. But I think the big thing that I wanted to see this season was adding to the offense and making sure that it was like fun and dynamic and entertaining. And I think, I mean, it's early enough in the season where we honestly just don't know yet. But like that LAFC game, like they were ripping it. That was great ball. Like, I don't know. That's what people want to see when they go to the game. I don't think it's about like a superstar. I think it's just about be fun to watch, be entertaining, score goals. They did that against Antigua. They did that against LAFC. I thought the Charlotte game, I thought they looked sharp. Thought it was fun to watch. I think I don't think star power is meaningless, but like, okay, take Nico Ladero and Raul Ruidiaz, for instance, right? Nico Ladero wasn't necessarily a guy that like a household name for the average soccer fan. He was the starting number 10 for Boca Juniors. He was very famous in South America and with the Uruguay national team. But honestly, before he got linked to the Sounders, I have no trouble admitting this. Before I saw the link, like they're linked to this guy from Boca Juniors, I didn't know anything about Nico Ladero. But the attendance was really good in those early years because he was a freaking baller. And they started winning. They won MLS Cup as soon as he got there, and he's fun to watch. So he didn't need to be like, I really don't, I don't really value the name stuff. It's if you have substance to your game and you're fun to watch and you produce and the team is winning, I think that's the biggest key to fixing this attendance stuff. I really do. I think all you can do is, as an organization, is put a good, winning, productive, and entertaining product on the field, and then let the chips fall where they may, right? Like, if you do that and people still don't go, then I don't think you can do anything different. But what I do think, listen, I really don't try and begrudge people's criticisms that they had last year about the style that the team was playing and how boring it was. If you go back and listen to the Lobbing Scorchers episodes from that portion of the season, Noah and I were complaining about how boring and stale it was as much as anybody. My thing is, like, I think what happened is that people didn't adjust after the team started playing better and winning. You know, they won a lot. They were just 2 points per game for that entire period of time leading into the playoffs, which they made a good run in the playoffs. And, you know, I've seen some people point out like, well, they didn't score that many goals in the playoffs. They barely got by the Dynamo. That shit doesn't matter. The playoffs, it's not always going to be entertaining scoring goals. It's do you make it or not? Like, that is a zero-sum game. Like, yeah, it would be sick to score a bunch of goals in the playoffs and destroy every team you play. Guess what? That's not how it goes. You're playing the best teams in the league at that point. You're going to, like, the defenses you're playing are all going to be the best defenses in the league. It's, to me, like that in tournament play, the entertainment and the aesthetics of it, I think, kind of go out the window. That's about results. like, period. So, like, when people try and say that Seattle's playoff run didn't count last year because they didn't score enough goals for their liking, I don't care. They made it to the Western Conference Final, and they did get shut out by the Galaxy. That is a fact. The Galaxy got shut out in that game through 85 minutes. Like a game like that, you are certainly not entitled to, nor you're not entitled to just go into the LA Galaxy Stadium and rip off 5 goals. That's just not how it works, man. It's just not. Got a couple of super chats to get you. Hey, Sewell, thank you so much for the support. Much appreciated. Crazy idea. But what if the solution for the stadium situation is for the Sounders owners to buy the Seahawks? We know the stadium has to be sold and the NFL allows private equity now. Sounders have a relationship with Carlisle, and if the Sounders aren't enough, Adrian is part of the Kraken owners group, so maybe you can do a joint Sounders Kraken purchase of the Seahawks. That is an idea that I haven't heard. The only thing that comes to my mind with that is when the Seahawks get sold, I mean, what are they worth? $5 billion? $6 billion? I mean, Hanauer's broke, man. He's broke. How do you expect him to afford that? Sorry, I was looking. I had something in chat that I wanted to hit, but I didn't see it. I'm excited. I'm excited to see Rusnak, Reese. I like watching him play. I think he's fun to watch. I think he's a great passer. I think his through balls and his vision are excellent. I think he's the best set piece taker I've ever seen on the team. And I include Evander in that. I include Ladero in that. I don't know who else over the years. Dempsey in that. I think he's a team player. And I enjoy watching him. If you're talking about name value, then yeah. But in terms of the substance of his game, I think there's a lot more substance to it. Look, man, I'll level with you. I drive all the way from Spokane. It was really hard for me to get behind our team when we go up 2 goals and then lose, or when we give up late goals. I feel that, man. Sorry if I got a little frosty on you earlier. Like, I actually really appreciate your comments, because you bring a different perspective a lot of times. I don't agree with pretty much anything that you say, but like, you're always welcome to dish your takes here. And it's sick that you drive from Spokane to support the team. And like, at the end of the day, like, not just you, but like, I understand that a lot of people, the reason that they get worked up when the team isn't performing is because they care a lot about the team. We all want the team to win and be successful so bad. So I think that's a good thing. But for me, like, I try to adjust how I thought about it. Like, for me, the most important thing is like, are you winning? You know. I love watching Rusnak personally. So clean on the ball, hits such a nice ball. Don't think he's as flashy a player as others, but he does a lot for the team, especially when he drops the line. Yeah, like I will agree. I would agree he's definitely not necessarily like he's not as flashy as maybe like a guy like an Evander. I think the difference between him and some of these guys does get overstated, though. Like, I will say that. Like, we were talking about this recently. Someone was giving me, I think it was Reese actually, he was giving me a hard time because I was saying that I don't rate Rusnak and Evander that differently. Like, Rusnak had 16 assists last year. Evander had 19. Like, that's not like an insane difference in terms of output. I think I would rate Evander higher because I think he's more like dynamic for sure, and he's younger. But if you honestly were asking me, like, who would you rather be the number 10 on your team, like Rusnak or Evander, I would say probably Evander for the reasons that I said. But I don't know. I don't see much of like a difference there. I really don't. This club can go far, and while it's exciting that Georgie and Primetime are the most exciting players on the team, it's an indictment of the top end talent at the club. See, that's I don't think it's an indictment of the top end talent. I think it's a that's praise for Georgie and Paulie Primetime. You know, I guess maybe that's the whole like AT Rusnak thing is he's not like flashy or exciting. As someone like my favorite types of players are dime dishers, and I love his dimes. Like he hits those diagonal dimes that I really like. I think his through balls when he's on his day, he's pretty much like this is going to be blasphemous to some people. His through balls are Ladero-esque. I was going to say they're just as good. They're Ladero-esque. So maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm just a nerd for enjoying watching Rusnak play. He is not the flashiest player I've ever seen. I'll say that. But like I value wins over flash, I guess. Is what I'm saying. If Rusnak isn't that flashy, but he puts up 30 plus goal contributions across all comps like he did last year, and the team's winning games, contending for trophies, I don't care that it's Rusnak, not Evander. Would you ever do a live stream watch along or stream the highlights and talk about the various plays? Okay. First question. We might do that at some point. It's just tough because I like for the home games, I'm usually there. And then for the road games, I'm often working them for I'm on the editorial staff for the league website. That's like my job. So like it's kind of hard to like I did a stream the other day where I was trying to do my job and stream at the same time. It was hard. I didn't think it went particularly well, honestly. I think people still enjoyed it, but it was like it just felt like my brain was scrambled a little bit, and I felt like I wasn't doing a great job streaming because my brain was in two places. So the watch along idea, maybe we might try that at some point, though. Streaming the highlights and talking about various plays. I have done that a little bit. The feds demonetize us when I play like Apple TV highlights. I got one demonetized a couple streams ago because I was watching the highlights of from the LAFC game. Noah was not happy with me. Okay. I can tell when Noah's like mad as a bit and when he's actually tilted at me, and he was not happy about that getting demonetized. I am going to look into. I feel like I should be able to get like some type of waiver. I work for the damn website, and also like us putting the league's highlights on our content is like good for the league. And also MLS historically has been more chill about that. Like they used to let you I think they still do let you post GIFs of their highlights before. They were doing that before other leagues allowed that, and I think other leagues might still not allow that at all. So anyway, I feel like I should be allowed to do that. I have people I can ask, see if they'll let me do that. But I will tell you, the FBI was on my shit. Like they were like, you cannot play that highlight or you get no money. Sorry for watching soccer highlights. Christian and Obed been putting a bunch of nice through balls to JMO this year until the Cruz Azul game. But no, yeah. Okay, we got Evander, Rusnak, discourse. Yeah, Evander is better. I wouldn't dispute that. I think what I was saying is just like it's actually not as much of a difference between the two as you would think. Evander just is some of the goals he scores are pretty insane. I do think though that so when Seattle signed Rusnak, I was really excited about it at the time because I watched him on Real Salt Lake with Damir Krylak for years. And if you guys remember what those Sounders games were like during those years, I mean, obviously they never won on the road at RSL, but I actually would go into those games every time and I would be like, oh God, like got to deal with Rusnak and Krylak. Like these are guys. And one of the things that I really liked about Rusnak when he was on RSL was some of the free kick goals. He scored way more free kick goals for them than he has for Seattle. He scored a handful for Seattle. He had the one. So if you guys remember the one he scored against Orlando, his first year on the team, he did that for RSL like a lot. Like you can go through his RSL highlights and there's goals exactly like that, like more than a few. But he had that one for Seattle. He had scored a free kick against RSL. Actually, that was a really good free kick. And I think he has 1 to 2 more free kick goals. But I think my prediction is that this season and however long he's on the team, you're going to see a few more free kick goals from Rusnak where you're like, oh, damn, like that was disgusting. Like he can hit those. He's hit a couple on Seattle, but he's capable of those. I think really the biggest asset he brings with the free kicks is like his corner kick delivery and his free kicks. Status of Morris, Areola, and De La Vega, how long are they out? So apparently Schmetz was sick today, so there was no update. I was kind of confused about that. I don't really go out to training anymore, so I was like looking at Twitter and Blue Sky to see the updates, and I didn't find any. I thought maybe they had like the day off or something. Apparently Schmetz was sick. Actually, no. So Freddie Juarez spoke today. That explains why. Sometimes I thought they just gave Freddie the mic because sometimes they do that. But Freddie Juarez spoke today. Schmetz was sick, so no official updates. But I mean, talked about it earlier in the show. But my guess, my non-medical expert guess, is that De La Vega and Morris are in the 4 to 6 range. I think quads and hammies, you're usually talking about 4 to 6, not 2 to 4. Like that sucks. I hope that's not the case. It could be more like 2 to 4. Absolutely could be, especially with Jordan. Like if it was just a tweak and not like a full on pull, maybe we're talking about more like 2 to 4. I would probably plan to deal with the emotional toll of them being out for more like 4 to 6. Areola, it looked like he did his ACO. Like, obviously, really hope that that's not the case. And it's something less serious and he's able to return this season. To me, it looks serious. Like, based on the years of this sport that I have watched. But yeah, update should be tomorrow. Let's see. I think that was pretty much all I had planned for this one, guys. I said I was going to go an hour 10 and I'm at an hour 40. So I'm going to do what I always do when I start to wrap it up here and throw on some lo-fi and go ahead and submit your last questions, thoughts, comments, concerns, agendas, and I'll get to them. Disc golfers crashing out. Thank you for stopping by as always, man. We got the Rusnak discourse coming in hot. It will never die. It will never die. I knew it was going to be hot after that Cruz Azul game because anytime they lose, it's his fault. But like, honestly, I say that like jokingly, but that is kind of what comes with being a DP. You know, you get the glory when it's going well. You take the criticism when you lose. Paul, I would agree with that assessment of Ariola's play in the Cruz Azul game, but dude, like, it was everyone in that game. It was everyone. No one in the midfield could keep the ball. It was really frustrating to watch. And then I would say before that game, I really liked how Ariola was looking. Like, scored a couple goals against Antigua. He looked like he was developing chemistry with everyone, like really fast, and it just sucks, man. It just sucks. Kind of a cursed ass tournament. You never make it out of this tournament without some catastrophe like that. You don't. Even the year Seattle won it. Remember, JP gave his ACL for Champions League. Paul being more exciting than Jesus so far is actually like a good take. Like, Ferreira does not look fully acclimated to me yet at all. Partially, that's probably fitness. I think partially, I think it's how they're using him. I don't know. The usage thing is kind of just me theorizing, but like, his best days at FC Dallas were in a more advanced role than what he's playing for this team, which this is kind of like when you stock depth like this, you do end up in situations like this. It happened with Rusnak. Remember, they played him. Part of the whole anti-Rusnak sentiment is because he wasn't putting up big numbers his first year and a half on the team, because they were playing him as like an 8. He was playing in a position where you don't rack, but then it's like, well, then why did you acquire him? And back then I was like, yeah, like, I don't see why you would necessarily have signed him to play as like an 8, but then they won Champions League with him playing that position. And I think people forget actually how important he was. Like, when people say that he doesn't show up in big games, I think people forget how important he was to that Champions League run. He scored a huge goal in the NYC series, which that was actually low-key one of the hardest series they had. He was huge in that series. And I think it's very fair to say that he's a big reason that they won Champions League. And he wasn't even playing in position, you know? So, but it is, so it's what I was getting at though, is like a similar situation to what it looks like it's happening with Ferreira, where they're like, to get him on the field, we got to play him here, but now where we're playing him isn't exactly where he's at his best. So I don't know. It's kind of figuring that out. USMNT validated in calling him fat. There seems to be something fitness-wise going on. Schmetz literally said that it wasn't that. That's not why he pulled him off of the Cruz Azul game. It just seems like he hasn't been playing. Like, Jordan's been playing every minute of every freaking game, and Ferreira is not playing a full complement of minutes. So, Jesus our backup 9, or do we still consider Moose number 3 striker with no backup? So we were playing with the lineup build earlier. Not sure if you were here for that, but we're going to find out in this St. Louis game. I totally forgot to preview St. Louis. So maybe I'll do that real quick before I go, which I don't really have that much to say about them. Frankly, I haven't watched them that much this year, but what I can tell you guys is that they drew a couple games 0-0, and then they tied one 3-0. I'm going to pull up their schedule real quick. Why isn't it going? There it is. All right, this is St. Louis City SC. Oops. So they started their season off with 2-0-0 draws. Okay. One at home, one against San Diego. Then they destroyed the LA Galaxy 3-0. But they destroyed the down bad version of the LA Galaxy. So all that's to say, they're not like a goal scoring juggernaut right now. They're not. And Seattle actually has had a lot of success against this team. Even in the year where they got first in the West, Seattle beat the shit out of them at home. That was the game where Atencio scored the banger. And then they won in St. Louis too. They took a straight up road dub. And that was the year St. Louis won the West. So it seems like we'll see. This has to hold. They haven't been in the league that long, so this has to hold true as they play more. But honestly, it had the feel of a matchup that was starting to foster a one-sided dynamic. I don't want to be presumptuous. Any road game is always hard. But this is a team that they've had success again the last couple times that they've played. And for that reason, I would say that like ordinarily in this situation, I would say that a draw on the road is pretty much always fine. It's not every time you draw on the road that it's a good result. Most of the time, I would say if you draw on the road in this league, it's a good result. But a game like this where you're playing a team that didn't score in its first two games, like, that wasn't by design. Like, that's 2 full games. So this is a winnable game, or at least it should be. And really, Seattle needs just a good performance, I think, coming off that Champions Cup debacle. The vibes after the LAFC game were so high. And then in the Cruz Azul game, tanked them a little bit. So if they play well and score, if they play well, score a couple goals and like 2-2 this, I would be okay with that. If they look good and are entertaining. Eric, thank you for the super chat. $2. Appreciate you. Did the Galaxy just back pass to them? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, 4-0-0. So that's even better. Even better than I thought. All right. I'm going to call it right there, folks. Thank you all for tuning in for another episode of Under the Lights, our Thursday night live show. I appreciate all you sickos who tune into this. You guys, the Under the Lights crew is my favorite. It's like the more niche crew, but like you guys are the ones that I know are actually about it. Even the ones that I disagree with, the brigade folk, I know you're actually about it because you show up to these. If you haven't done so yet, go ahead and please like the video. That really helps us. Sub to the channel. That also obviously really helps us. What else do I need to show here? Patronize our sponsors. Yeah, guys, if you haven't done so yet, patronize all our sponsors. Hacks and Ferments, Full Pull Wines, and Podium Menswear. But use our code to order some hot sauce from Hacks and Ferments. Start putting it on your like scrambled eggs, if you're eating a burrito or something. It's so good. So good. I'm such a big hot sauce guy. I love hot sauce. It's like a dream of mine to be sponsored by a hot sauce company. And I love this hot sauce. Like, go buy some and use our code and help out a local Seattle business. And then Full Pull Wines and Podium Menswear are phenomenal companies as well. Noah was wearing a sweater from Podium on our last show. So all right, guys, I'm out of here. We'll be back after the Saturday game. I think I'm gonna try and do a post game live for that. I don't see why I wouldn't. It's a road game. Well, I guess why I wouldn't is what I was talking about earlier. If I'm working the games, it might be tough. I'll see about a post-game live after St. Louis, but we'll be back for Lobbing Scorchers kickoff Monday morning, 8 a.m. as well, guaranteed with Nico Moreno. All right, thanks, guys. I'll catch you next time. Peace. Don't want to give money to the oligarchs, but love Lobbing Scorchers? Do we have a deal for you? MLS Season Pass is back on Apple TV with access to every single MLS match, including Leagues Cup and the entire Audi MLS Cup playoffs with no blackouts. It's not just the games, you get total access to the pre- and post-match MLS 360 whip-around show in both English and Spanish, and get live look-ins and highlights from around the league, as well as full match replays and recaps. Now, you can support our show by visiting lobbingscorchers.com/Apple TV to purchase your subscription and support our show.
LobbingScorchers.com/Apple TV. Please, don't let the oligarchs win.